The champagne glass hit the marble floor with a sound that could have split diamonds. My mother's scream echoed through the dining room, piercing through years of forced smiles and swallowed dignity. Everyone froze. The elegant birthday celebration, with its crystal stemware and designer place settings, transformed into a battlefield in the span of a heartbeat. But I was already walking away. My name is Arya, and this is the story of how I finally fought back against the family that erased me. The evening had started like every other family gathering, with me being reminded exactly where I stood in their hierarchy. I walked into the house around 6:30, snow still clinging to my coat, holding her gift like it was made of porcelain. A silk scarf from Italy, wrapped with care that no one would notice or appreciate. The whole place smelled like vanilla and roasted meat. Somewhere in the background, Christmas music was playing, cheerful and hollow, completely out of place for what was about to unfold. Coats hung on the rack near the door. Fur, cashmere, designer labels that whispered expensive secrets. Mine looked like a thrift store find in comparison, which was exactly what it was. The guests were already gathered in the living room. My mother, Vivian, sat right in the center of the couch in a bright red dress, her earrings glittering like she had been crowned queen of the evening. My father, Richard, sat beside her, quiet and polite, his default setting at events like this. My older sister, Celeste, was admiring her perfect manicure and laughing with Aunt Margaret. My younger brother, Phoenix, was deep in a loud debate about luxury cars with a few cousins when I stepped in. Celeste gave me a quick glance. Cold. Uninterested. "Oh, you came," she said like I was a pizza delivery no one remembered ordering. I forced a smile that felt like swallowing glass. Of course. Would not miss it. Mom did not even bother standing up, just waved her hand dismissively. "Put the gift over there and find somewhere to sit. Dinner is almost ready." I hung up my coat and placed the small gift box with the others. Most of them were massive, glossy, branded shopping bags that looked like they belonged in a window display. Everything looked festive, but it felt empty. And not the kind of empty that catches you off guard. The kind you get used to, the kind that hollows you out slowly, until you forget what fullness feels like. While the servers passed around champagne, I stepped to the far end of the long table. No one offered me a closer seat. That was when I saw it. Above the fireplace where the old family portrait used to hang were two large framed photos. Matching expensive frames hung with care. In one, Celeste stood in front of the Eiffel Tower dressed in an all-white designer outfit, striking a pose that screamed magazine shoot. In the other, Phoenix stood proudly in a sleek modern office, holding a plaque that read Startup of the Year. There was no photo of me. There used to be an old graduation picture, back when I still tried to smile for their cameras. Now there was just empty space, like I had been quietly erased from their perfect narrative. I looked away, took a glass of champagne, and did not say a word. The alcohol burned, but not as much as the realization that they had physically removed me from their wall of achievements. Dinner was served. The food was extravagant. Duck with orange glaze, truffle mashed potatoes, tiny sculpted salads in crystal bowls. It all looked beautiful, smelled like money, and tasted like nothing. Every bite felt like cardboard in my mouth. The conversations revolved around the usual things. Other people's success. Never mine. Celeste bragged about her new collection showing in Paris. Phoenix talked about opening his third coffee shop. Aunt Margaret, bless her soul, went full fan club mode. "You have such a talented family," she gushed. "Vivian, you must be so proud." Mom beamed like she had raised royalty. "They work so hard. I could not ask for better children." Not a single person asked me a thing. Even Dad, who normally tried to play neutral, just nodded at me when I sat down, then forgot I existed. At one point, I mentioned quietly that I had just moved into a new apartment. A small victory I was proud of, paying for it entirely on my own. Mom did not even pretend to care. "Celeste, did you tell them about the Paris show?" she said, cutting me off and passing her another glass of champagne. I looked down at my plate and focused on my fork. In this house, I have always been background noise. Furniture. A glitch in their perfect design. By the time the toast started, I already knew how the night would end. Dad gave a half-hearted toast to family and health. Aunt Margaret toasted to our children's success. Phoenix, half joking, toasted to the burden of being a genius. Laughter rippled through the room. And then Mom stood up. The room quieted. Glasses clinked softly. She adjusted the silk scarf on her shoulder and looked around with pride that radiated from every pore. "I am proud of my children," she said loudly, her voice carrying that theatrical quality she saved for moments when she wanted to be remembered. "Proud of Celeste, our shining star. Proud of Phoenix, so bright and ambitious." She paused for effect, letting the anticipation build. I held my breath, some naive part of me still hoping for inclusion. Then she smiled that cold, calculated smile I knew too well. "I am proud of all my children except one." The words hit me like a physical blow. Laughter rippled through the room. Nervous, forced, stifled chuckles from people who knew exactly who she meant. Dad smiled into his plate, the coward. Celeste covered her mouth like she was embarrassed, but she was not. She was delighted. Phoenix raised his glass toward me, smirking like this was all some hilarious inside joke. I did not cry, did not flinch or shrink like I had done so many times before. But something inside me finally, quietly clicked shut, like a door that had been waiting years to close. I stood up slowly, picked up my purse, and took out a small white envelope. I walked over to Mom with steady steps that felt like the first honest movement I had made in years. Her champagne glass was already on the table. She was not even looking at me, still basking in the laughter her cruelty had generated. I lifted the glass gently and slid the envelope into the bottom of the flute. A neat little rectangle, visible through the golden liquid. "What is this?" She frowned, finally acknowledging my existence. I did not answer. I just gave a small smile that felt like freedom, and walked toward the door. "Aria." Aunt Margaret called after me. "Where are you going?" I did not respond. I just grabbed my coat and left, stepping into the cold night air that felt cleaner than anything inside that house. Outside, the sky was already dark. The snow fell in soft, lazy flakes, glittering under the street lamp like scattered diamonds. I took a deep breath of cold air, and for the first time in a long time, I felt it. I was not losing a family. They had already lost me. I shut the heavy front door behind me and stepped into the cold hallway. Then I stopped. The silence inside the house was so sharp, it felt like it rang in my ears. That kind of silence where your body instinctively holds its breath, like the world is bracing for something catastrophic. I took one step, then another. Each footfall echoed a little too loudly in my chest. And then, from somewhere deep in the living room, came my mother's scream. Not angry, panicked, high-pitched and raw with terror. I froze. In that instant, I knew. They had opened the envelope. They had seen everything. I did not turn around. Did not run back to explain or apologize. I just kept walking toward my car, parked at the edge of the long driveway. The air stung my skin, but inside I felt calm. Cold, steady calm. I got in, shut the door, turned the key. The engine rumbled to life. Headlights cut through the snow like blades of truth. And just as I pulled onto the empty street, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Her name lit up the screen with that soft familiar glow that used to make me feel obligated to answer. I glanced at it for half a second, then turned the phone face down. 3 seconds later, buzz again. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Buzz. Phoenix this time. Then came the text from Celeste. "You need to explain. How could you do this to us?" No expression crossed my face. Just silence. I flicked the phone to silent, let the vibrations fade into nothing, and kept driving forward through the snowstorm, through the night, through every guilt trip they had ever fed me. The pressure to stay quiet. To be the peacekeeper. To forgive without reason. Because now I understood what they really wanted was not peace. It was silence. And I was not giving them that anymore. I started thinking about how it all began. From the start, I was the extra. The placeholder between the golden children. Celeste, the oldest, family pride and joy. A natural star who could do no wrong. Phoenix, the youngest, bright, charming, endlessly adored by everyone he met. Me? I was the space between them. The backdrop against which their achievements could shine brighter. Mom used to say, "You are so independent, Aria. So easy." Easy meant invisible. When I won academic awards, I got a silent nod. When I moved into my first apartment, working 3 jobs to afford it, I got a smiley face in the family group chat. That was it. When I asked for help, the response was always, "You are strong. You will manage." So I managed. I worked myself to exhaustion. I paid rent on apartments I could barely afford. I covered bills that left me eating ramen for weeks. I even sent money to help them out when they claimed to be struggling, even when I was barely scraping by myself. I did it all quietly, hoping naively that maybe one day they would see me, that it would matter. But the truth was different and much uglier. When Celeste had an art show, they bought her gowns that cost more than my rent. When Phoenix dropped out of yet another expensive program, Mom took him out for mental health lunches at 5-star restaurants. Me? When I asked for a small loan to get a root canal that was causing me agony, Dad sighed and said, "Times are tough. We just cannot afford that right now." Meanwhile, they were shopping for Celeste's new car. It might have stayed buried forever if not for one slip of the tongue. A passing comment from Mrs. Chun, our elderly neighbor. "Such a shame they sold that house near the park. Your grandfather was so proud he left it to you." That stopped me cold. What house? What inheritance? I did not believe it at first, so I dug. Property records, tax filings, old estate paperwork, city archives. Hours of research that made my head spin and my heart race. And there it was. A will, clear as daylight, naming me as the sole heir to the house. Forged authorizations signed behind my back. Bank records showing years of rental income going straight to my parents' accounts. Thousands and thousands of dollars, while I rationed groceries and worried about rent. I sat with that knowledge for weeks. It felt like carrying a live bomb in my chest. Do I confront them? Walk away quietly? Take them to court? But the decision came the night Mom lifted her glass and said, "I am proud of all my kids except one." And everyone laughed. Celeste smirked like it was the funniest thing she had ever heard. Phoenix raised his glass at me like it was some kind of inside joke they all shared. That was when I knew there would be no apology. No admission of wrongdoing. No closure. Just them and their story where I was always the problem. And now, driving through the dark, phone buzzing uselessly in the seat beside me, I knew one thing for sure. I had done the right thing. For the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. And I would never let them choose for me again. I woke up the next morning to silence. The phone had finally stopped buzzing sometime around 4 in the morning. When I opened my eyes, the screen was lit up like a Christmas tree of desperation. 53 missed calls. 27 texts. 11 voice messages. Celeste, Phoenix, even Aunt Diane, who I had not heard from in 10 years, suddenly remembered I existed. I scrolled through the messages with one finger, feeling detached, like I was reading someone else's drama. Some were desperate. "Sweetheart, we can fix this. We are family." Some were threatening. "If you go public with this, you will destroy all of us." And a few were just plain nasty. Typical. "You have always been ungrateful." I set the phone down. Did not answer a single one. By lunchtime, another message came in. This time an email from my father. Short and cold. "Be reasonable. You do not want a war. No one wins." Signed. "Family is everything." His go-to phrase whenever he wanted to sweep something under the rug. Later that evening, another message from Mom. "I am sorry if we hurt you. But since you have clearly found out, maybe we should talk. We are open to discussing compensation." Compensation. Not "we want to make things right." Not "we betrayed you and we are sorry." Just compensation. Like I was some disgruntled vendor, and not their daughter. I closed the email and turned off my phone. 2 days later, the rumors started. First, a college friend reached out. "Your mom told people you turned down the inheritance because you were focused on your career." Then, a neighbor sent me a screenshot from Celeste's social media. Sometimes jealousy ruins even the strongest bonds. It is sad to see how greed changes people. And that was when I realized they had launched a full-blown campaign against me. The goal was simple. Discredit me so that if the truth ever came out, people would already be doubting my side. It was textbook manipulation. First silence me, then ruin my reputation, then play the victims. So I spent the entire next day in a lawyer's office. Her name was Ms. Rodriguez, sharp no-nonsense mid-40s, with eyes that did not miss a thing. When I laid everything out, the will, the documents, the tax records, she did not flinch. Just nodded. You have a rock-solid case. The house is legally yours. They have been collecting income they had no right to. I hesitated. What about the lies? The posts? The gossip? She frowned. Unless they cause you measurable harm, like loss of income, it is hard to prove defamation. But if they keep it up, we can build a case. You would be surprised what counts once there is a pattern. I nodded. Her confidence was exactly what I needed. So what do I do now? First, document everything. Screenshots, messages, emails, every single piece. Second, keep everything formal. Third, no more private communication. All contact goes through me. On the drive home, one thing became crystal clear. They were not going to stop. To them, the truth was dangerous, and I was the traitor who had chosen myself over their script. But I was not scared anymore. I was not the old Arya who quietly cleared dishes while everyone toasted Celeste. I knew exactly what their family values were worth now. And I knew what I was worth too. That night, I opened my laptop and wrote a new email. Attached the scanned copy of the will. Attached all relevant documents confirming my legal ownership. Sent it to Mom, Dad, Celeste, and Phoenix. Subject line. Formal notice of property ownership. All further communication through legal counsel. No emojis. No explanations. No begging. Just facts. They wanted a war, but they forgot one thing. I was not their background character anymore. The letter Ms. Rodriguez sent on my behalf was about as warm as a blizzard. 2 pages, 0 pleasantries, and each sentence landed like a warning shot. It laid everything out clearly. The house legally belonged to me, and my parents had collected rent on it for years while forging my signature behind my back. They had 5 business days to respond, or we would file a civil suit for restitution and damages and forward evidence of fraud to the district attorney. It should have felt like a victory, but it was far from over. This was just the opening move. I spent the next 3 days waiting for the sky to fall. The first day brought nothing. Just silence. No angry texts, no late-night calls, not even a passive-aggressive meme from Celeste, which frankly was suspicious. Then it started. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. A sleek white envelope slid through my mail slot. No return address, just my name in perfect printed serif. Inside was a revised agreement from a law firm I had never heard of. The header made me squint. Whitmore and Associates. The letter was condescendingly cordial. I was encouraged to resolve this unfortunate conflict privately and avoid unnecessary emotional distress by signing a mutual agreement. It sounded reasonable if you did not actually read it. The fine print was devastating. I would be surrendering all claims to the property, forfeiting any right to sue, and agreeing never to discuss it publicly. In exchange, a payout that would not even cover 2 years of rent in this city. Oh, and I would have to sign a lifetime non-disclosure agreement. Classic corporate strategy. Pay the problem to shut up. I did not even bother forwarding it to Ms. Rodriguez. Just tossed it onto the kitchen counter and laughed. Dry, tired, bitter. The next day brought another envelope. Same white paper, same we can resolve this like adults tone, different terms. Slightly higher payout and a new clause. I would also have to sign a statement retracting any prior defamatory implications regarding the Blackwood family's financial conduct. In plain English, they wanted me to say I had lied. I started keeping the envelopes in a drawer. I did not read most of them. I just watched the pile grow like evidence of their desperation. And then I noticed the car. It showed up on Thursday. Black sedan, tinted windows, parked across the street and facing my apartment. Could have been anyone, a neighbor, a delivery driver, a random car. But it was there again on Friday. And Saturday. Same model, same spot, lights off, engine silent. I started checking the locks twice, then 3 times. And just when I was starting to think maybe I was imagining things, maybe the stress was getting to me, there was a knock at the door. It was 9:47 in the evening. I checked the peephole. 2 men in suits. One holding a clipboard, the other just standing there, hands in his coat pockets. I did not open the door. Miss Blackwood. One of them called out. We just need a quick signature on something for clarification. Clarification? Sure. I am not signing anything, I said through the door. Of course. He chuckled like we were old friends. No pressure. Just easier if we handle this quickly. I said nothing. After a moment, footsteps retreated. When I opened the door a crack a few minutes later, they were gone. But a folder had been slid onto my welcome mat. Inside, written in thick black letters. This can end now if you sign. That night, I called Ms. Rodriguez. My voice shook for the first time since this started. She did not panic. She just said, pack a bag. Go stay with someone. Do not go home tonight. I grabbed my essentials, laptop, documents, the envelope pile, and drove to my friend Brooklyn's apartment. Her place was barely bigger than my old dorm room. The couch had a sinkhole in the middle, and her cat immediately took over my blanket. It was the safest I had felt in weeks. I broke down for a full minute. No words, just that silent, gut-deep kind of crying that does not need sound to hurt. They are acting like I am dangerous, I finally said, voice barely above a whisper. Like I am a threat. Brooklyn did not miss a beat. No, they are acting like you have power. That is new for them. She made tea. I could not drink it, but I held the mug just to feel something warm. 2 days later, while I was still camped on her couch, Ms. Rodriguez called with a different tone. Tighter, sharper. I found something, she said. Turns out Marcus Whitmore, yes, that Marcus, had advised your family from the very beginning to suppress the will. Worse, one of his junior associates leaked a thread of internal emails that proved he knew the power of attorney forms were forged. My heart stopped. Marcus did not just take on the case. He orchestrated the whole campaign. Ms. Rodriguez filed a complaint with the State Bar before lunch. By dinner, we had forwarded the new documents to the district attorney's office. And just like that, the air changed. Suddenly, the silence was not mine. It was theirs. No more letters. No more cars. No more men at my door. Aria Blackwood had stopped playing defense. We did not announce anything publicly. No posts, no leaks, no threats. We just prepared for trial. And that was when they made one last attempt to buy me off. Another envelope. This one delivered by courier. Inside was a 6-figure offer, a pre-written apology, and a full release clause. All I had to do was sign and pretend none of it ever happened. I stared at the paper for a long time. Thought about the years I spent scraping by while they collected rent off a property I did not know I still owned. I thought about every holiday dinner where my chair was optional. Every text left on read. Every time I got, "We cannot help right now," while Phoenix got another gift-wrapped safety net. Then I thought about the knock at my door, the folder, the car watching my apartment, and I set the offer on fire. Literally. Brooklyn's sink had scorch marks for a week. Worth it. The next morning, the DA's office called. "We are moving forward with criminal charges," the woman said. "Forgery, fraud, possibly identity theft. We will need you to confirm some signatures in court." "Yes," I said without hesitation. "They say courtrooms are where the truth comes out. That is generous. Courtrooms are where truth shows up wearing a blazer, sits stiff in a chair, and hopes someone believes her before she runs out of time." The day of the trial, I wore navy. Not black, too grim. Not gray, too apologetic. Navy said, "I am not here to mourn. I am here to be heard." Marcus Whitmore was already at the defendant's table when I walked in. Expensive haircut, gold watch, perfectly folded pocket square, like he was auditioning for a legal drama where no one ever loses. He did not look at me. Mom did, just briefly. She was sitting beside Dad, who looked like he had not slept in a week. Celeste was not there. Phoenix was, but his expression said, "I did not sign up for this." Which was funny, considering he actually had signed things. Illegally. I sat beside Ms. Rodriguez, who passed me a folder and whispered, "Stay calm. Let the evidence speak first." She had a highlighter behind one ear and a gleam in her eye that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I was not alone in this. The opening statements were polite knives. Marcus stood and painted me as an estranged family member, suddenly interested in her late grandfather's estate. A woman possibly confused by grief and motivated by spite. I did not flinch. I just thought he is good. Not truthful, but good. Then Ms. Rodriguez stood. She did not raise her voice or pace dramatically. She just let the facts land one by one. The will clearly naming me as the sole heir to the property. The forged power of attorney documents. Years of rent flowing into accounts I did not know existed. The sudden smear campaign once I questioned it. She ended with, "This is not about family tension. It is about theft." And sat down. Testimonies followed. The handwriting expert explained how my signature had been digitally copied and pasted onto rental agreements. Then came the surprise witness. Mrs. Chun. Yes, that Mrs. Chun. The chatty neighbor whose slip-up started this whole thing. She testified that my grandfather had often talked about the house being for Arya. Not for the kids, not for the family. For me. She even brought a Christmas card from him, addressed to me with the line, "Hope this house brings you peace one day." Marcus tried to shake her. "Is it not possible you misunderstood?" Mrs. Chun smiled sweetly. "I misunderstand a lot of things at my age, sir. That was not one of them." There was a beat of silence. Even the stenographer looked impressed. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. I told them I had not known the house was still in my name, that I had spent years believing it had been sold, that I had worked and struggled and stayed quiet until I could not anymore. I did not cry. I did not yell. I just told the truth like it was mathematics. The judge took a recess, and when he came back, he looked tired but resolute. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Arya Blackwood. Full ownership of the property is restored to her. The defendants are ordered to repay all rental income collected over the past 5 years with interest. Attorney fees to be paid by the defendants. I did not smile. Not yet. I just let it wash over me like a storm finally breaking after years of waiting for thunder. Marcus asked to speak privately with the judge. Denied. Dad muttered something under his breath. I did not hear it. Phoenix looked at the floor like it owed him something. But Ms. Rodriguez turned to me and said quietly, "This is not over, but it is yours now." 2 weeks later, the DA filed criminal charges against Dad for forgery, real estate fraud, and identity theft. Celeste was not charged, but a formal defamation complaint was accepted. And Marcus Whitmore? Turns out encouraging clients to suppress a valid will and falsify power of attorney documents is not great for your license. His name appeared in a bar ethics review. His firm dropped my parents 2 days later. That part was not public, but word got around. Celeste's sponsorship started evaporating quietly, politely, like people stepping away from a fire before it spreads. Mom lost her part-time job when a local blog picked up the story. Apparently, customers did not love being helped by a woman accused of defrauding her daughter. Dad took some sort of warehouse job out of town. Phoenix tried to go back to school, but no one was paying his tuition this time. Me. I moved into the house. Not with fanfare, just with a key that finally belonged to me. The mailbox now reads Arya Blackwood, in clean, honest letters. One evening, I hung a photo on the hallway wall. It is not dramatic, just a candid shot someone took years ago. Me mid-laugh, blurry around the edges. It is not perfect, but it is mine. Kai helped me hang it. He did not ask about the court case or the drama. He just made sure it was straight, kissed my shoulder, and said, "Want help with the garden next weekend?" There is a ring in his pocket. I know it. He knows I know it. We are not rushing. Brooklyn visits often. She brings cookies that always burn a little on the bottom. Her cat has claimed the sunny spot by the kitchen window. My friend River comes by with her dog, who has somehow gotten bolder about stealing food from countertops. It is chaotic, loud, beautiful. It is family, the kind that does not ask you to shrink. Sometimes people ask if I regret not settling, not just taking the money and walking away quietly. And I always say no, because the truth was not for them. It was for me. They lost their daughter long before the courtroom. I just made it official. The house is quiet now in the evenings, but it is not empty. It is peaceful. I sit in the living room sometimes, in the chair that faces the window, and I think about that night. The champagne glass hitting the floor. Mom's scream echoing through their perfect dinner party. I think about the envelope floating in the golden liquid, and how it felt to finally stop being invisible. The truth is, I do not miss them. I miss the idea of them. The family I thought I could earn if I just tried hard enough, stayed quiet enough, made myself small enough. But that family never existed. This house, though? This is real. These walls that know my name, this garden that waits for my hands, this space that does not ask me to apologize for existing. This is mine. And for the first time in my life, that is enough. Sometimes, late at night, my phone will buzz with a number I do not recognize. I know it is one of them, trying a different approach, a new angle. I let it ring. Silence, it turns out, is not about protecting the wrong people. Sometimes silence is about protecting yourself. The difference is knowing when to use it, and when to break it wide open. I broke mine at exactly the right moment. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. So what do you think? Was I justified in taking it to court? Should I have just let it go for the sake of family? I am still figuring out how to feel about all of it, but one thing I know for sure. Silence protects the wrong people. You made it this far, and I want you to know that your story matters too. Whatever truth you have been carrying, whatever injustice you have been swallowing, you do not have to carry it alone. If this story resonated with you, if it gave you the courage to speak your truth or validated the pain you have been feeling, please hit that subscribe button. Share your story in the comments. Let us build a community where silence is not required and truth is not optional. Because your voice matters. And it is time the world heard it.